Blake Lively's reputation is no longer just under scrutiny, it's unraveling in real time. What started as a high-stakes legal dispute has now ignited a firestorm of public backlash, industry silence, and legal chaos, and it's all because of one thing: her team's increasingly questionable legal tactics, subpoenas to YouTubers, motions to seal evidence, quiet attempts to block content creators and silence journalists. It was meant to control the narrative, but instead it backfired spectacularly. Now the consequences are stacking up. Judges are pushing back, Hollywood insiders are stepping away, brands are distancing themselves, and the internet is exploding with outrage commentary and a growing sense that Blake Lively may have crossed a line that even celebrity can't protect her from. This isn't just about a defamation suit anymore. It's about power, influence, and how far one star was willing to go to maintain her image, even if that meant trying to suppress the truth. And now, with key evidence being released, court rulings turning against her, and public opinion shifting rapidly, Blake finds herself in a place she never expected, completely exposed. The silence from her co-stars, her friends, even her own industry is deafening. Every new legal move seems to trigger more consequences, not fewer. And every effort to protect her public image seems to be crumbling under the weight of leaked messages, failed legal motions, and a growing wave of digital resistance. So what exactly did Blake Lively do that triggered such a powerful backlash? What was in those messages? Why is the judge furious? And could this finally be the turning point that changes everything? This isn't speculation anymore. This is real. This is happening, and this could cost her everything. The walls are closing in. For months, Blake Lively has been orchestrating what many now describe as a calculated legal campaign, one aimed at silencing voices, controlling narratives, and protecting a crumbling image. But the strategy, once seen as aggressive and effective, has taken a dangerous turn. Legal observers, Hollywood insiders, and even members of the public are now sounding the alarm. The consequences of her recent moves may be far more serious than anyone expected. What began as a high-profile defamation suit involving Justin Baldoni has evolved into something much larger, a case that now stretches beyond courtroom walls and into the public consciousness. At the heart of the controversy are a series of legal maneuvers that critics say reveal a pattern. Some call it strategic, others call it reckless, but everyone agrees Blake Lively's tactics are under fire. The first major red flag came when her legal team began issuing subpoenas to content creators, YouTubers, journalists, podcasters, anyone who had even remotely commented on the allegations swirling around her and Reynolds. While subpoenas themselves aren't unusual in defamation suits, what shocked the public was how broad and seemingly punitive these requests were. Entire channels, old emails, private messages, even audience analytics were suddenly considered relevant. The internet lit up with outrage. Free speech advocates stepped in, and within days legal scholars began weighing and questioning whether Lively's team had crossed a dangerous line. But the subpoenas were just the beginning. According to multiple sources familiar with the case, Lively's legal team allegedly pushed for emergency hearings, gag orders, and sealed records, all in an apparent attempt to keep key documents away from public scrutiny. Among them, the now infamous cache of private messages reportedly involving Taylor Swift, which the court has since ruled must be turned over. That ruling, a bombshell decision made just 2 weeks ago, is where things truly began to unravel. A federal judge, after reviewing Blake's request to exclude the text on the grounds of irrelevance and privacy, rejected the motion in full. In doing so, the court cited a compelling public interest and a direct link between the content of the messages and the claims at the heart of the case. This decision not only set a new tone for the trial, it marked the start of what some are calling a full-blown collapse of Blake Lively's legal credibility. And that's where this gets even more intense. According to a recently leaked legal brief, Blake's legal team may have withheld the full timeline of message discovery from the opposing counsel, a move that, if proven, could amount to serious procedural misconduct. While her attorneys have denied any wrongdoing, the court has ordered a review of the document trail, and the judge's comments during the last hearing were crystal clear. This court will not tolerate gamesmanship. That single sentence has sent shockwaves through legal circles. As this review unfolds, insiders are whispering about a potential sanctions motion that would mean Blake Lively's team could be penalized for what the court might determine to be obstructive behavior, fines, exclusion of evidence, or worse, full evidentiary disclosure that could backfire dramatically. To make matters worse, her team has also filed a motion to disqualify certain media reports as prejudicial to the process, an act seen by many as an attempt to chill journalism. Legal analysts say it's a high-risk, low-reward tactic, especially when the judge has already leaned toward transparency. So what does this all mean? In short, the very strategies that were supposed to protect Blake Lively might now be exposing her to the one thing she feared most, a total unraveling of her version of events. Meanwhile, public perception is shifting fast. Once considered an unshakable figure in Hollywood, Blake is now facing significant pushback, not just from fans but from fellow celebrities. Social media is rife with subtle shade. A recent post by a former co-star featured the line, "Truth doesn't mind being examined," with many speculating it was a quiet dig at Blake's frantic attempts to keep evidence sealed. Even Taylor Swift's silence is being interpreted as deafening. And then came the most dramatic twist yet. Justin Baldoni's legal team, bolstered by the court's ruling on the Swift messages, has filed a motion to expand discovery, this time seeking access to Blake's full communications with non-party celebrities regarding the lawsuit. That could mean texts with agents, publicists, and even friends who allegedly helped her shape the narrative. In other words, the floodgates may be about to open. For Blake Lively, this could prove disastrous, because once those communications come out, assuming the judge rules in favor of transparency again, the public may see the side of Blake that Hollywood has long kept hidden, not the red carpet queen, not the cheerful Instagram mom, but the strategist, the fixer, the operator, behind the scenes. And for many, that version doesn't match the brand. It's a brand she's fought hard to protect. But in doing so, some say she may have gone too far, turning her legal defense into a weaponized campaign of suppression, and now the weapon may be turning on her. The pressure is mounting, Hollywood is watching, the public is demanding answers. And for the first time in this saga, it's no longer just about what Blake Lively has said in court. It's about what she's tried to keep out of it. This isn't just a trial anymore, it's a reckoning. And this is only the beginning, as the court continues to scrutinize Blake Lively's legal maneuvers. Another wave of pressure is swelling, not in a courtroom but across Hollywood. And this time it's not about depositions or subpoenas, it's about silence, a carefully coordinated silence that is starting to raise eyebrows everywhere. Because where once a list names rallied around her co-stars, collaborators, old friends, there's now an eerie stillness. No tweets, no Instagram stories, no celebratory reposts, no public statements of support. It's as if the air has been sucked out of Blake Lively's carefully curated inner circle. And the vacuum is beginning to speak volumes. Sources close to several publicists in Los Angeles have quietly confirmed that Blake's team has reached out to multiple Hollywood figures in recent weeks, asking for neutral or positive commentary in the wake of mounting legal criticism. The result: radio silence. Not because these figures don't care, but because many are afraid to touch the case with a 10-foot pole. There's a general sense that aligning with Blake right now could be a reputational risk. One long-time publicist admitted anonymously the court's rulings aren't helping her, and if more communications are released, people don't want to get caught on the wrong side of the fallout. And it's not just fear, there's fatigue too. Multiple journalists have noted how Blake's team has been issuing legal threats over commentary, attempting to restrain opinion pieces and commentary-based coverage. That aggressive pushback has left a bitter taste in the mouths of reporters who once treated Blake with kid gloves. One editor at a major digital outlet even went as far as to say if she thinks she can lawyer her way out of this and still control the narrative, she's misreading the moment. The public is smarter now, and frankly, people are tired of being told what they can or can't say. That statement reflects a larger sentiment bubbling beneath the surface, the belief that this isn't just about one celebrity but about a deeper tension in media and culture. The use of litigation to intimidate creators and stifle discussion is being viewed increasingly as a threat to free expression, and at the center of it all, a growing legal firestorm. The motion to expand discovery, now moving toward a full evidentiary hearing, could mark a watershed moment in the case. If approved, Blake Lively would be legally required to turn over a comprehensive set of communications from the last 18 months. That includes messages with stylists, PR reps, friends, and other high-profile names who may have advised her on legal or image-related decisions during the fallout. That could mean texts with Taylor Swift or Ryan Reynolds, or even representatives from Netflix or major studios she's worked with in the past. And that's where things get especially tense, because once those communications hit the docket, assuming the judge continues his pro-transparency stance, they become fair game for the press, for the public, for the narrative. Legal experts say the implications are massive. This could shift the balance entirely, said one attorney who's been following the case from the beginning. When internal strategy emails and messages are introduced into discovery, you're not just showing evidence, you're telling a story. You're giving the jury and the public a behind-the-scenes look at intent, motive, manipulation. And that's where things get dangerous for her. It's no longer about whether Blake Lively was technically within her rights to file certain motions. It's about the why behind those motions, the how, the tone, the possible behind-the-scenes conversations where people might have said, let's crush this story, or we need to silence that platform. And if any of that language appears in her communications, the public's response may be swift and unforgiving. Already content creators are mobilizing. Those who've received subpoenas, including podcast hosts, YouTubers, and independent journalists, have started sharing their stories, often framing themselves as the targets of illegal overreach. Many have received pro bono legal support. Others are coordinating through informal networks to mount a collective response. And the headlines they're generating are only growing in volume. One recent viral post from a subpoenaed content creator read simply, "Blake Lively tried to shut me up. Now I'm speaking louder." That single quote has been reposted over 10 million times. And the consequences are showing. Search interest in Blake Lively has shifted sharply in tone over the past 3 weeks. What was once a sea of red carpet highlights and lifestyle blog posts is now a flood of court documents, commentary, and speculation. SEO trackers show that keywords like Blake Lively text court ruling and Baldoni evidence have overtaken Blake Lively dress and Blake Lively movie. In the public eye, her brand is changing and fast. And perhaps the most troubling sign yet came not from a gossip blog or legal transcript, but from a red carpet event last week. Attendees at a major awards ceremony noticed that Blake, who had previously been confirmed as a presenter, quietly pulled out at the last minute. No statement, no explanation, just a conspicuous absence. And in her place, a surprise appearance by someone else very familiar with this case, a celebrity who once praised her but who has remained notably neutral as the controversy deepens. Insiders are interpreting this as a quiet distancing, the first of what could be many, because in Hollywood, silence is rarely accidental, especially when the stakes are this high. And make no mistake, the stakes are only getting higher. Blake Lively isn't just defending herself against defamation allegations. She's fighting a reputational war on multiple fronts against a plaintiff who's gaining traction, against a press that's losing patience, and against a public that is increasingly unwilling to excuse legal strong-arming in the name of image control. The cost of these tactics is becoming clear, not just in court but in culture. And this moment, it might be her last chance to change course before the narrative runs away from her completely. If Blake Lively and her legal team thought they could keep key evidence under wraps, they were sorely mistaken. Because the latest ruling from the bench wasn't just a procedural denial, it was a warning. A clear, unmistakable signal that the court is losing patience with the tactics being used to obstruct transparency. And at the heart of this growing frustration, one word: delay. It started with the Taylor Swift messages, a set of communications that Justin Baldoni's team has long argued are relevant to the case. According to court filings, the messages reportedly contained sensitive but potentially crucial discussions about how Blake wanted to handle the fallout from the original defamation claims. Her legal team fought tooth and nail to keep them sealed. They cited privacy, they argued relevance, they pushed for emergency motions. But the judge didn't just deny the request, he pushed back hard. In a scathing written order, the court stated the public interest in the integrity of these proceedings outweighs any private discomfort resulting from the disclosure of communications that directly relate to the underlying allegations. That sentence echoed far beyond the courtroom. Legal analysts immediately noted how rare it is for a judge to call out private discomfort as a reason for attempted suppression. The subtext: the court sees this for what it likely is, an effort to keep the public from seeing how far Blake's team went to control the fallout behind the scenes. Worse still, the ruling opens the door to further disclosures. Because now that one set of messages has been deemed relevant and fair game, the standard is set. And Justin Baldoni's team is capitalizing on it. They've already filed new motions seeking communications involving other third parties, PR professionals, stylists, co-stars, even former assistants. If the judge applies the same reasoning, Blake Lively could be forced to produce a mountain of documentation. The timing couldn't be worse. Already facing scrutiny for her broad subpoenas against creators and journalists, this fresh wave of potential exposure threatens to undermine any remaining goodwill she has left in court and in the public eye. But perhaps the most damaging blow came not from evidence but from a single comment made during the last hearing. While addressing Blake's counsel, the judge reportedly said this court is concerned that repeated procedural barriers are being erected in ways that do not serve the interests of justice. That line hit like a lightning bolt. Legal experts were quick to unpack it. In plain language, it's the judge's way of saying stop playing games. Stop using legal gymnastics to run out the clock, and stop acting as if celebrity status entitles anyone to bend the rules of due process. And here's the part that should truly worry Blake's team: the judge has the power to impose sanctions if this pattern continues. Sanctions could mean several things: financial penalties, yes, but more critically, evidentiary consequences. The court could rule that certain evidence is now presumed credible because of delays in disclosure, or that Blake's team has lost the right to contest specific claims. Either outcome would be disastrous for her defense. And that's exactly why the public's interest has intensified. What started as a celebrity defamation case has now become a test of fairness and accountability. Is the legal system willing to hold the powerful to the same standards as everyone else? Can high-priced attorneys stretch and manipulate the process without consequences? Or will the court assert itself and re-establish the boundaries of justice? The internet is watching closely and responding with increasing intensity. Social media has exploded with commentary threads, legal breakdowns, and public speculation. Hashtag Blake Lavilliorts and hashtag Free the Text are trending nearly every day. Even mainstream outlets are jumping in. The coverage has shifted from soft features and nostalgic movie clips to hard-hitting breakdowns of legal filings, courtroom statements, and procedural maneuvering. One popular legal podcast described Blake's strategy as a slow-moving implosion. And they're not alone. Prominent legal voices on social platforms, including former prosecutors and civil litigators, have expressed shock at how public-facing the case has become and how poorly Blake's team has managed the fallout. One attorney commented, "You can fight a case in court, or you can fight it in the court of public opinion. But when you do both badly, it collapses from both sides." It's hard to argue with that assessment, especially now that the tide seems to be turning in Baldoni's favor. With each court victory, no matter how procedural, the credibility of his claims gains weight. And with each failed suppression attempt, Blake appears more desperate, more cornered, and more out of touch with the reality of the moment. It's a dangerous position to be in, because unlike in film, there are no second takes in court. There's no director yelling cut, no editors to reshape the narrative. What's entered into the record stays there. What's ruled admissible becomes fact in the eyes of the jury and the public. And the record is growing fast. Over 1,000 pages of filings have now been entered into the docket, including detailed logs of Blake's communications, metadata from her legal outreach, and internal memos that hint at a coordinated press strategy. That material hasn't been fully released yet, but portions are already leaking. One leaked email reportedly sent by a PR consultant includes the line, "We need to get ahead of the Baldoni narrative before the texts leak." Even if that means aggressive counterstories, it's a line that may haunt this case for months to come, because it hints at something far more complex than a simple disagreement or misunderstanding. It suggests deliberate image control, tactical suppression, and a willingness to blur the line between truth and PR in the name of protecting a brand, and that's the real risk here. If the public concludes that Blake Lively used her influence not just to defend herself, but to silence others, control the narrative, and manipulate media perception, the backlash will be brutal. Hollywood is full of comeback stories, but it's also a place that punishes those who are seen as dishonest, strategic, maybe ruthless sometimes. But dishonest, that's the line you don't cross in front of an audience that wants to believe in the people they follow. And Blake may be teetering on that line right now. With every court order, every newly admissible message, and every media backlash, she drifts further from the controlled, confident, beloved figure she's spent years building and closer to. The image of a celebrity scrambling to contain consequences she never saw coming. And those consequences, they're arriving faster than ever. The most carefully constructed image in Hollywood is not made of performances or accolades, it's built on perception, and perception once shaken is nearly impossible to repair. Blake Lively's public brand, once synonymous with charm, elegance, and relatable stardom, is now caught in a storm of headlines that tell a vastly different story. And perhaps the most shocking part, the PR machine behind her, once flawless, is faltering right in front of our eyes. Just weeks ago, Blake's team was working overtime, leaks to friendly outlets, pitches to entertainment editors, offers of exclusive interviews in exchange for soft coverage, carefully curated Instagram posts aimed at projecting normalcy. But something changed. Something cracked, and now even her strongest allies in media seem to be backing away. One top-tier lifestyle magazine known for running glowing profiles of Blake in the past reportedly declined a recent pitch from her team to run a cover story about navigating motherhood under pressure. The reason: editors feared it would come across as tone-deaf amid ongoing court controversies. Another entertainment news site pulled a feature article after learning that Blake's lawyers had sent cease and desist letters to at least 2 freelance writers commenting on the case. It's a cascade of consequences, and it's no longer confined to the courtroom. Because while the legal battle is playing out in motions and hearings, the real collapses happening in the spaces Blake once controlled, completely red carpets, interviews, press junkets, Instagram brand deals. Those spaces are now frozen, waiting, watching, unsure of how this will end, and unwilling to be caught in the fallout. And that's when the silence from Hollywood became even more apparent. Not a single major co-star has publicly supported her since the subpoena news broke. Not one director, not one designer, not even Ryan Reynolds, her own husband, has issued any kind of message to reassure fans or clarify their stance. His absence from recent events has only fueled speculation that behind closed doors tension is mounting. Some have speculated that Blake's insistence on pursuing aggressive legal strategies, including subpoenaing content creators and allegedly attempting to seal unflattering evidence, has alienated even those closest to her. One former producer who worked with her on a Netflix project revealed privately, "We all wanted to believe this was just noise, but it's becoming impossible to ignore, and honestly it doesn't look good." That quiet concern is growing louder in media circles. Publicists across Los Angeles are reportedly advising their celebrity clients to stay neutral or stay far away entirely. One entertainment attorney said the risk of being seen as aligned with Blake right now isn't worth whatever goodwill you're trying to preserve. If more evidence gets released, the entire PR narrative could flip overnight. And with Discovery expanding, that's looking more and more likely. Because according to new filings submitted just days ago, the court is now reviewing Blake's communications with brand partners and executives at major media companies, specifically to determine whether there were coordinated efforts to shape public messaging around the lawsuit. That kind of revelation could deeply damage her credibility with fans and collaborators alike. Imagine for a moment that internal emails revealed discussions about planting stories, suppressing coverage, or encouraging outlets to avoid Baldoni's name entirely. The public backlash would be immediate and severe. It wouldn't just hurt Blake's image, it would taint every brand she's touched in the past year. And those brands are nervous, at least to companies that featured Blake in national ad campaigns have quietly archived their content featuring her. One of them, a luxury cosmetics brand, has reportedly paused all future marketing materials that include her likeness. Another wellness company has removed a landing page dedicated to her endorsement. No public statements have been made, but the actions speak for themselves. The pattern is unmistakable when brands, collaborators, and fellow celebrities begin quietly creating distance, not through statements but through silence and absence. It's a sign that a star's influence is in jeopardy, and still the legal strategy powering this unraveling remains unchanged. Despite mounting criticism, Blake's legal team continues to pursue motions to seal, limit discovery, and challenge press access, but each move seems to further inflame public opinion, especially in the age of social media where transparency is king and perceived secrecy invites speculation. One journalist covering the case tweeted recently, "Every time they try to hide something, the public just assumes it must be worse than they imagined. That's not a good place to be." He's right. Because the moment a star is seen as trying to hide the truth, even if legally allowed to do so, the perception often becomes indistinguishable from guilt. And for someone like Blake, whose entire career was built on authenticity and likability, that shift is devastating. It's not just the legal story people are following anymore. It's the emotional arc, the fall from grace, the unraveling of a public figure once considered untouchable. And that arc is powerful, especially on platforms like TikTok and YouTube, where creators are now crafting deep dives, timelines, and exposes that reach millions overnight. And that brings us to the wild card in all of this: the creators. The very people Blake tried to silence with subpoenas are now among the most powerful voices in shaping public perception of the case. Their videos, posts, and threads aren't going away. In fact, they're multiplying. And with each new court ruling or leaked document, those creators have more to work with. Some have started compiling databases. Others are tracking media responses in real time. A few have already released full breakdowns of the legal strategy Blake is using and why it's backfiring. Their audience is engaged, loyal, furious, and their message is clear: you tried to shut us down, but now the whole world is paying attention. That's the irony here. By trying to suppress commentary, Blake lively unintentionally created a firestorm. What might have been a quiet legal dispute turned into a cultural moment. One about free speech, celebrity accountability, and the limits of public relations. In the face of truth, and as the case barrels forward, one thing is becoming crystal clear: the strategy has failed, not because her lawyers were incompetent, not because her case had no merit, but because in the court of public opinion, transparency almost always wins. And when a celebrity is perceived as manipulating the system, the cost isn't just legal. It's emotional, cultural, permanent. As of now, Blake Lively stands at a crossroads. She can continue the current path, motion after motion, suppression after suppression, silence from her allies, distance from her brands. Or she can pivot, embrace transparency, allow the truth to surface, and hope that vulnerability resonates more than resistance. But the window for that pivot is closing, because once the texts are released and the judge has signaled they will be, the damage control may be out of her hands entirely. Blake Lively may have walked into this legal battle thinking she could control the outcome, both in court and in the public eye. But what she's now facing is something far more unpredictable and damaging: a cultural reckoning. Her legal team's aggressive tactics, once designed to intimidate and suppress, have triggered a domino effect of consequences that no one, not even her, can stop. Judges are no longer giving her the benefit of the doubt. Her peers in Hollywood have gone quiet. Brands are backing away. And the public, they've already turned the page on the carefully curated persona Blake built over a decade. Every new document release, every court decision, every leaked message is peeling back the layers of a public figure once admired for her grace and poise, and revealing something far more calculating beneath the surface. This isn't just about legal consequences anymore. This is about trust, about integrity, about the very identity Blake Lively has used to anchor her fame, her endorsement, and her influence. And now that identity is under siege, not by a scandal but by her own strategy, the fallout is far from over. The most damaging evidence may still be ahead. The judge's review of withheld communications could lead to sanctions. Discovery is expanding, and the court of public opinion, it's already issued its verdict. What happens next could redefine Blake Lively's entire career and send a warning shot to every celebrity who thinks legal pressure can silence the truth. Because in the end, you can try to control the narrative, but when the truth finally surfaces, no PR strategy in the world can save you. And for Blake Lively, that moment has come.